We are delighted you chose to be with us tonight. We want you to have a safe and wonderful experience. Please be assured that your safety as well as your enjoyment of the event are our utmost concern. Please take a moment, look around, and identify the nearest two exits. Whether in a virtual setting at your home or physically in some form of venue, you must always be ready. So please identify two exits in your current location in the event it is necessary to evacuate quickly and orderly. Also, during this COVID-19 pandemic, please remember to wear your mask, wash your hands, and always stand 6 feet apart from others. Please enjoy the event and continue to be safe.
Good evening, and welcome to the first coalition of Staten Island Black-led community-based organizations Candidates Forum Week. My name is Rachel MeCane, and I am a member of Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Hidden Pearls of Staten Island Interest Group. Our organization and like-minded organizations are excited to create opportunities for our members to hear directly from the candidates so that they can make informed decisions when voting. Our coalition pledges to maintain each forum as a balanced opportunity to all candidates to express their views. We are non-partisan and do not support any political party or candidate. It is important for you to know that we sent personal invitation to each candidate running for citywide and Staten Island offices. Those who appear on the forum accepted our invitation. Those candidates who do not appear did not respond to our invitation. To assure that our members are informed voters, we will spend each night this week meeting candidates who have accepted our invitation to the forum. On Friday night, we will host a forum focused on the 5 ballot changes. That's right, there are 5 proposed changes in the state constitution. You should know about them and vote on each one. Tonight, we will hear from the candidates running for the office of New York City Public Advocate and New York City Comptroller. Before I turn tonight's session over to the moderator, I want to take a moment to highlight the coalition members and thank each of them for their partnership on this important and historic effort. The coalition of Black-led organizations include Hidden Pearls of Staten Island, Kappa Alpha Incorporated, African Community Alliance of Staten Island, Empowerment Zone Incorporated, Fatherhood Matters, the Harriet Tubman Purple Hat Society Incorporated, Lambda Kappa Mu Sorority Incorporated, Lambda Chapter, Staten Island National Council of Negro Women Incorporated, Staten Island Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Staten Island Black Heritage, and Staten Island Branch of the NAACP. In addition, we would like to thank the members of all the organizations who have joined us this evening. Reminder, early voting starts this coming Saturday and your vote matters. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Remember, if you don't vote, your voice will not be heard. I am now turning the microphone over to this evening's moderator, Letricia McClearly.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this evening's forum sponsored by the First Coalition of Staten Island Black-led community-based organization. I am your moderator for tonight, Letricia McClearly, a member of Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the Hidden Pearls of Staten Island. Before we begin, let's go over some ground rules. We have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, 90 seconds to answer questions that were predetermined by our attendees, and 1 minute to wrap up. There will be a question and answer period as well. Attendees, please place your questions in the chat room. We will provide time for the candidates to answer those questions. We look forward to providing a comprehensive forum featuring the candidates vying to be your next public advocate. I hope tonight is a valuable experience and that all members of the Staten Island community remember to participate in the elections during the early voting or on November 2nd. To ensure fairness, candidates will speak in order of their arrival to the forum. Our speaking order for opening statements is as follows. It is my impression that Mr. Jumaane D arrived first, and so he will speak first, followed by Mr. Devin Balkind. I now will invite Mr. Jumaane D to give your opening statement.
Thank you, Ms. McClearly, and all of the organizations who helped put this together. I have to give a special shout out to Michelle Tempong for making sure I got the invite, and I'm glad that I can be here today. I have been an advocate for the people all of my life, and I've been very proud to bring my experience as an organizer and a legislator to the role of public advocate. During my time, we've completely restructured the office, redefined the scope of what it can do. We've taken on some very, very tough fights. We've won some tough victories. We've tried to meet people where they are. We've helped them with what they needed. In my first 2.5 years, we're very proud to have passed almost as many bills as all of the public advocates combined. So a lot of folks see me in the street, but I always make sure I'm there to actually get some things done. Of course, much of the term has been shaped by the pandemic. I've been proud to be at the forefront of pushing to follow the science and protect New Yorkers. Unfortunately, the lack of actions of many of our leaders led to some lost time and some lost lives. The last 1.5 years have shown more clearly than ever the underlying forces of inequity and injustice, of incompetence of our city. As someone who's worked on these issues long before the pandemic, I am very clear that we cannot go back to normal in the wake of what we just experienced. We have to do better than that. And as both a public advocate and as a Democratic nominee, I believe we need courageous, progressive, transformative leadership now more than ever. So I'm committed to moving forward from this moment of crisis. I'm proud of what we've done so far, but obviously there's so much work more that needs to be done in New York to create a more just, equitable, and affordable city. And I'd be honored to earn your vote once again to continue that work. And of course, by my presence, not just here tonight, but all across the campaign, we have a Staten Island borough advocate who's done a great job on Staten Island, making sure that Staten Island is never forgotten. So hope I can earn your vote one more time. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, for your opening statements. Now we will hear from Mr. Devin Balkind. Good evening, Devin.
Thanks so much for having me. This is my third time running for public advocate, each time as the Libertarian candidate. I'm happy to, the Libertarian Party is the third largest party in the country. I'm quite happy to inform folks that, or spread knowledge that you don't have to run as a Republican or as a Democrat and contribute to this two-party system that I believe is really bad for New York City and I think bad for the country. That it's possible to get on the ballot as a third party that has 50 state ballot access. I first ran for public advocate in 2017. I developed a policy platform around increasing the transparency of city government and improving methods of participation. These are the two roles that I think the public advocate the charter asks the public advocate to provide, to perform. And since that time, I basically took it upon myself to just think I was the public advocate and kind of tried to live a public advocate lifestyle and started organizing. I'm a software producer. I work in the software industry. I'm an independent producer. I work for clients who need software, sometimes government, sometimes nonprofit, sometimes for-profit businesses. And so I've produced in the last 4 years, along with my team and like through a nonprofit that I work with, the best directory of capital projects in the city. You can go to wegov.nyc. You can see a map of capital projects with integrating many different data sources from the city and from volunteers, showing you that our capital budget is 120%. Our capital projects 120% over budget, over 20,000 years late. These are real problems that cause real harm all the time. Why am I the person to bring this together and produce the best transparency database? I don't know. I'm just some guy. Same thing, organizing 211 information. So like New York City does not have a social services directory. Most places do. New Jersey does. Connecticut does. Please tell me if if I go too long. I love questions, but we need a 211 system where people can call and they can find out the nonprofit social services that are available to them. And so through the process of COVID, I worked with a volunteer team to create mutualaid.nyc, which has a call center component and is a directory, volunteer created, of nonprofit social service information so people can actually find the services that they have. I've got more stuff to talk about. I have a feeling my time's probably up. So thanks so much for having me. Look forward to more.
Thank you, Devin. And yes, your time was up and we will hear from you in a few more minutes. So let's begin with our questions. They were very in order. And since Devin, you were on a roll, we're going to start with you with the questions, followed by Mr. Jumaane Williams. So our first question for this evening: how would you use this position to improve policing in New York? Do you support cutting NYPD's funding in order to reallocate funds towards needed services and social programs? Where would you reallocate the funds if so? What concrete policies would you advocate for to improve policing in New York?
First of all, I think that we need to decriminalize a lot of stuff. Right now, we're putting the police in a very difficult position where we have a lot of laws on the books. And a lot of laws that shouldn't be on the books, and asking the police to use a lot of their discretionary judgment when it comes to who do they want to apply that law to and who do they not want to apply that law to. Turns out that the police are very interested in applying drug crime laws in communities that have been marginally oppressed, sex crime laws in communities that have been marginally oppressed, and who have been marginalized and oppressed, and that's terrible. But the way to solve that problem is that we need to legalize or decriminalize sex and drugs. And if you look at how experiments like that have gone in Europe, they've gone really, really well. If you want to get people off of heroin, you have to decriminalize opioids and decriminalize heroin. And it's counterintuitive. I was surprised. If you look at the Portuguese example, if you look at Northern Europe, this is just the way it is. So I think that's one thing. Once we decriminalize things, there'll just be a lot less work to do. And then you want to call it defunding, you want to call it allocating resources, there'll be less work for them for the police to do, and we can use those funds in other ways. I don't know if I'm at 90 seconds, but the other thing I'd like to see is some enforcement of placard abuse, which you can see all over the city, where people are parking with placards, think they can just park anywhere because they've got union cards or they're related to the police or they're police or whatever, and it creates a feeling that there's two classes in the system, two classes in the city, one that can park everywhere and one that can't, and I think that creates a bad vibe. I don't like it.
Thank you, Devin. Your time was up. We will now switch over to Jumaane. I'm sure you dropped those questions down, so 90 seconds.
Thank you. Hard to do in 90 seconds, but an extremely important question that I've been focused on for a very long time. There's a lot more work needs to be done. I want to tweak it just a little bit because I know we're, especially this past year, focused on policing. I want to focus on public safety. And so the question that really needs to be asked and answered by leaders who have the courage to have these conversations is, what is public safety and what is policing role within it? And if I ask people to think about communities that are actually deemed as safe, they would not think of communities that have a police officer on every corner. Not because those police officers don't have a job to do, but those communities wouldn't be deemed safe. The communities that they would deem safe have access to things like quality, affordable housing, quality education, quality food, and not just potato chips. They have access to mental health and health services. And so my thing is, if we can structure our communities so that everybody has those things, public safety looks a lot different. What we do now is we send police officers who actually have a specific job to do all of the jobs that other agencies have failed to be either structured or resourced to do. And many of those things police officers don't want to actually be doing, like mental health services. And so those are the questions that we have to ask, and then look at the funding that we have, where's that funding going, and what needs to be structured and resourced. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people using fear-mongering. We do see crime increasing in certain violence, but we know why that's happening. We had very big successes.
Jumaane, your time is up.
Oh, thank you.
You can complete your sentence though, but your time is up.
Thank you. I just want to say we can't ignore things like gun violence. We have good responses to it that have been successful in the past, and we should use them again and hope we have opportunity to discuss it more.
Okay. So we'll move on to our second question, and Jumaane, you will begin this question. How would you go about creating more affordable housing in New York? What about permanent housing for a New York homeless population or houseless population?
I cut my teeth at organizing around housing issues. And so it's, one, you have to look at homelessness and housing the same. Unfortunately, we often have two different housing directives, two different deputy mayors, two different agencies. It should be one plan, housing and homelessness. You won't ever build your way out of this problem. So the number one thing we have to do is preserve the affordability that we have, whether it is NYCHA, whether it is basement apartments that should be legalized, whether it's Section 8, whether it's rent regulation. We have to preserve what we have. And then if we do build what we have to make sure we do it with communities that tell us where they can give up density and where they don't want affordability. So not just affordable, but affordable to who? So the question is, what do we get built for income targeted housing? And then for homelessness, the answer to most homelessness is for housing that people can afford. But for a subset of the most chronically homeless, we do need supportive services, supportive housing. Just providing the housing for people who have chronic issues by themselves won't solve the problem. And so it actually depends on which population of homeless New Yorkers you're looking at.
Thank you. Devin? You're on mute, Devin. Unmute yourself.
So I agree, thank you. I think that you can build your way out of a housing crisis. In fact, that's the only way you can resolve a housing crisis is by building lots and lots of housing. And this has been proven around the world in the few cities that are brave enough to actually try it. Tokyo is one of them. People think Tokyo is super expensive. It's actually much cheaper than New York City is, and its prices are going down. Why? Because they radically simplified zoning. They took zoning and they actually, in Japan, it's managed at the federal level, but basically they legalized building large buildings that can house lots and lots of people. So I know that people, I'm from here. I don't like it when I see large buildings going up next to the place where I grew up or the place that I live. But there's a moral imperative, and that moral imperative is that people need housing. And particularly, New York is a job center. If we want to give up the jobs, then we don't have to build any more housing because people aren't going to want to come here. But do we really want to make that trade-off? The other trade-off is that we just continue doing the status quo, which is making it extremely expensive to build housing, extremely difficult to build housing. And so only a very specialized small group of developers actually know how to do the politics necessary to get housing built. And that creates a situation where developers are very happy, the ones that are in here and doing business here, because they know how the system works and they can benefit from it. And everyone else has to deal with really, really high housing prices. Preserving affordable housing as it exists right now, different story. Need another 90 seconds for that.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you. So I took a look in the chat room, and we have one question. We have more here. So let's go with, what are some concrete things you plan to do other than vocally support and oppose policy decisions made by others? Devin, you can go ahead, and Jumaane will follow.
Great. In fact, I'd say I'm not even that interested in vocally supporting or opposing policy decisions made by others. I think the public advocate's job, as the charter kind of outlines, is really refreshing to me. I'm not a politician. I don't like politics stuff. And I think a lot of people are trying to be divisive all the time, say keywords, trick people with words, blah, blah, blah. Instead, what I'm going to do is what I do now, which is that I build software and organize information to make New York City more transparent. I've produced the best capital project directory that exists on the internet. You can go to wegov.nyc and see the data book, and you can see it. I have the best profiles, 30 plus data sets combined for New York City agencies. If you want to learn about a New York City agency, you're going to go to wegov.nyc, and you're going to find that we're basically applying techniques that corporate America, that financial services, that people who use technology very seriously use to organize the city's information and show it to the public. The other side is the participation side. And in other places in the world, you can go online and you can propose projects that the city should do like radical participatory budgeting. Propose projects that people want, get your friends to sign up on them, and the city allocates money to them, and the projects get done. So there's a radical transparency, radical participation agenda that I'm advancing. If you want to learn more about that, you can go to wegov.nyc and see it. But also you can see what's happening in Barcelona, cities like Barcelona, Madrid, where they have online platforms that organize all of this participation. And it's glorious. It's great. We could have it. We need to expect more.
Thank you, Devin. Jumaane?
First, for the housing, I just want to be clear. We're not that far apart, but I have to be clear. The problem is we're losing more housing than we ever build, and what we're building is not affordable. So you have to go preservations first. You do need more density, but the preservation is the biggest part of the plan. Just so we're clear, the 5 powers of the public advocate is legislative. You get to introduce the legislation. You're an ombudsman, a go-between between the people and the city government. You're a charter cop, making sure the agencies are doing their charter mandated duties. You have a vote on the pension board, and you get to appoint people to the City Planning Commission and CCRB, other types of commission. The 6th one is not charter mandated, but I call it the bully pulpit. So I intend to continue to use all of those tools as much as possible, which we have had successes on. I will say part of the job is holding government accountable, and part of that is being vocal. But you can't be just vocal, which is why we're proud of the bills that we've had passed, the reports we put out, all of which people can see at advocate.nyc.gov. My job and the public advocate's job is not to be for or against any mayor or any institution. It's to do the work of the people, to work with them when it's going right, and to hold them accountable on behalf of the people when it's not.
Thank you. At this time, we will wrap up. You have 1 minute of closing remarks. Jumaane, I'm told that you are pressed for time. And so you can start your closing remarks, and then Devin, you can follow.
Well, thank you so much for that. And thank you for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate that. As you can see, I think of both of us, what you will see is we have a very big sincerity in wanting to prove New York City. But we know right now we're entering a new era of New York with a new administration coming in, new challenges compounding the existing ones. I believe that this moment calls for transformative progressive leadership with management, vision, understanding, collaboration, and the courage to lead through the crisis. And sometimes it still surprises me, strikes me that I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. I have Tourette's syndrome and a pretty prominent troublemaking streak that I could be public advocate, citywide elected official. And I owe that to my family, role models, to a lot of you who gave me your trust, your voice, when you put me in this role. And I work every day to live up to that trust, to raise that voice, to make sure Staten Island is not forgotten. In the last 2.5 years as public advocate, my last decade of public service, I hope I've demonstrated my ability to combine experience and vision to deliver positive change, to be the people's voice, speak to the people's need. I'm your public advocate. I'm proud to be and honored to be. I would be honored again to be with your support. Thank you so much. Peace and blessings, love and light to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Devin, closing remarks.
This is my 3rd time running. I I guess I've said before, I think I found my line, which is that, like, you know, I try to live the public advocate lifestyle. I've read the charter. I'm extremely motivated to see New York City become the world's most transparent government. Like, New York City attracts the most interesting people, hardest working people in the world. I mean, both my parents came here, weren't from here, you know, came here because they wanted to just like work really hard, and you know, made it possible for me to go about and try to do good works. And I think that I want to see our government become the type of place where highly motivated people come to work. They're not coming to work for the banks. They're not coming to work for, you know, kind of like media companies or whatever. They're coming to work for the city because New York City's government is the best government in the world. And it's the best government in the world because it's the most transparent government in the world, using technology to make the experience of living in New York City, if you want it, like SimCity, like a video game where you can go on, you can see the issues at play. You can do participatory budgeting in a way that's fun. You can petition, you can get your friends organized, and you can like really engage. And that requires both commitment to participation tools and a commitment to transparency. I think we can do it. I'm excited. I look forward to doing this over and over again until we get there, whether I'm public advocate or not.
Great, thank you. Our candidates for this evening for public advocate, Devin Balkind and Jumaane Williams. In closing remarks, hello once again, everyone. My name is Letricia McClearly, a member of Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the Hidden Pearls of Staten Island Interest Group. On behalf of the Coalition of Staten Island Black-led community-based organizations Candidates Forum Week, we thank our candidates for their participation tonight and for their willingness to run for this important office. Good luck. We thank our coalition partners and their respective members for listening tonight and taking the time out to ensure that you are well informed and a civically engaged voter. We also want to take the time out to thank our tech team for their patience and expertise on hosting every day of this week for the Candidates Forum. Tomorrow at 7 p.m., tune in to Facebook Live and on any one of our social media platforms and listen to the candidates running for judicial and the borough president. Don't forget to tune in on Friday for the discussion on the 5 ballot measures. Once again, in closing, we remind you to vote because your vote matters. And if you don't vote, guess what? You don't count. Until next time, good night, everyone.